Hello and welcome to Filibusters in Fine Print, where AMGA's public policy team gives you the insider view on healthcare regulations and legislation. Thanks so much for joining us for the latest from Washington, D.C.
Good morning and welcome to Filibuster and Fine Print, AMGA's public policy podcast. I'm your host, Chet Speed, and as always with our expert panel, I'm going to start with to our right this morning.
Good morning. This is Alicia Sawyer, Government Relations Assistant.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Daryl Drevna. I'm the Senior Director of Regulatory Affairs.
It's Jamie Miller, Ambassador Goodwill for AMGA.
And I'm Lauren Latney, Director of Government Relations here at AMGA.
Having a grand day.
Having a grand day.
Good. We hit on that in the last podcast as well. So usually we open up the podcast with a question. I was overruled. Apparently my questions are no longer interesting or fun. So Jamie, Mr. Miller, has a question for the team. Jamie?
So I offended you as well? Awesome.
Oh, yeah. Remember, it is mid-year evals coming up, too.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to be out.
That's why I brought beer in for him today. No, really, there's a six-pack downstairs.
You're the best. Jamie, why don't you just leave, actually?
Yeah. I got some Veuve Clicquot, don't you worry. So what's your favorite courtroom drama, movie or series? Daryl?
I will binge watch some original Law and Order anytime I'm on travel or in a hotel room. I go right to the cable and I need to find some Law and Order.
Doo-doo.
Yeah.
We just got sued. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
He says he likes it. It's a First Amendment right to say he likes something.
No, but you say
the doo-doo.
That's three. Trademark.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, we weren't talking about that at all.
Yeah, we were talking about,
That's an unrelated sound.
Yeah, exactly. Completely unrelated.
My favorite courtroom film is The Firm, and bringing back our question from last podcast, your favorite season. Everyone's favorite season apparently is fall, and The Firm is big fall vibes.
Wow.
Oh, fair enough.
Callback.
Wasn't Wilford Brimley in that movie?
I don't know.
Who?
Wilford Brimley, the mustache guy.
Yeah, from Cocoon.
Yeah.
He was the mean guy.
Yeah, he was. He was in charge.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about him when I mentioned diabetes last episode, but I forgot.
Oh, yeah.
He did another callback.
Yeah, well, you didn't say it correctly. You said diabetes. Diabetes.
My favorite is A Few Good Men. Because I've been thinking about, Tom Cruise is a really great dramatic actor. I'm tired of seeing him jump out of planes, quite frankly. Get back and do some dramatic scenes.
That is a great movie.
Yeah.
Jamie, you raised a question.
Oh goodness, I already forgot what it's called. Not A View to a Kill.
A Time to Kill.
A Time to Kill. That's a James Bond movie. A Time to Kill with Sam Jackson, and he says, of course I hope he died. He better rot in hell. I was like, that's just such heck.
Yeah.
Dang it.
And starting out the podcast on a very positive note. Very good.
Chet?
I guess maybe Law and Order, like you. And the funny thing is my wife is a prosecutor, and so she'd watch that show and absolutely hate it because there were all these grand discussions of First Amendment and Fourth Amendment rights. And in a real courtroom, the prosecutor will walk in, drop her file, and start picking it up and then pick up the wrong opening statement. So she never liked it.
I got to be honest, the courtroom scenes are fun, but really, I watched that for the opening with Jerry Orbach.
That's what I said, Jerry Orbach. May he rest.
That's great. And the next podcast will ask favorite fire shows.
Oh.
And Jill and I can refer to us being American heroes. So that's for next time.
You want to wait for your 4th of July? Is that it?
Sure,
Does that line up?
Sure.
There we go.
Right,
It does now.
Does indeed. Yeah. There's always fires on 4th of July.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah. It's always good. Okay. Good time to be busy. All right. Today, we're going to talk about advanced APM bonus incentives in Congress. Jamie also gave me a very detailed outline to follow.
Being nice, it's not that detailed.
It's like 15 points here.
I wrote in crayon, man.
Well, you're lead stuff. So the advanced APM bonus incentive, what's the history and how long has it been around?
So the APM bonus, Advanced Alternative Payment Model bonus, was created in the MACRA, Medicare Access Chip Reauthorization bill in 2015, which is a Part B, Medicare Part B reform bill. But it created two tracks, and AMGA worked on the bill. I think we had 2 years of RFIs. I know Daryl talks about RFIs all the time, but there was 2 years of RFIs where AMGA was involved with the drafting, and they created two tracks. One was MIPS, merit-based merit-based incentive payment system payments, and then there was APMs. APMs was something more, I think, for a lot of AMGA members because it was for people who were in certain types of ACOs. And as you all recall, AMGA was intimately involved in the drafting of the ACO statute in the Affordable Care Act years before MACRA. So what it did was it created a 5% bonus of your Part B revenue if you met the requirements. So it was a 10-year bill, and I think the pandemic kind of slowed it down, but it was putting people on a path towards value-based care.
When I looked at this outline yesterday, my pop culture brain immediately went to Romeo and Juliet. It's gonna make sense in a second because it's two payment programs, both for life and dignity, and MACRA, where we lay our scene.
Wow.
We could just stop right now. That was fantastic.
So it was exciting for that, and I was like, I don't know anything else about this. This is where I stopped.
Okay. And there's our top lobbyist right there.
No more Shakespeare for this. Yeah, but I think it's very interesting with when you're looking at APMs. It's sort of the super special. I think the AP classes of high school, but then you have your advanced APMs, which is a little bit more special. So they aren't alike in dignity all the way, but I think given the different types of performance bonuses, you want your advanced APMs, right? That's the hot girl. I keep using that term. I need to find it.
Hot girl's good. Yeah. That's fine. And you got Romeo and Juliet, hot girl, and there's also that Dire Straits Romeo and Juliet song, which is actually going through my head over and over now. So
I gotta go listen to it.
Oh, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, has AMGA supported this program for a long time? And what's our history on that?
Yeah, we endorsed it when MACRA came out. It was, it's something that we always supported. I think, the devil's in the details with Daryl working on the regs, but we worked with CMS and Congress on defining what is risk-based downside risk and making sure our members can get the bonus. But a few years ago, the MACRA package expired. And so we had to extend the bonus year by year, which costs a couple $1 billion. In 2 years ago, it was 3.5%, and then a year ago, it was 1.88%. And I think what makes this program complicated is we're currently in year 2025, I think, right? That's what year it is?
Correct.
We're in the 2025.
Again, our crack ledge team right there.
Yeah, we're in the 2025 performance year, and Daryl's getting excited that I'm using words.
Yeah, performance year.
Performance year. But once
as opposed to payment year.
Yes, but so 2025. Let's say you're doing a year of performance, then you have 2026, and then 2025, beginning of that year or around that, you get paid your bonus. So we're talking 2 years in between performance and bonus, but it's definitely been there's been bipartisan support on this package, and so we keep pushing members because I think Republicans and Democrats like the idea that you're actually doing something to get the bonus instead of just existing.
And we also heard from our members just how much they reinvest back into their organizations when it comes to the advanced APM bonus, which is why we fight so hard to keep it going. I remember talking to one medical group and they were able to open up an additional practice or buy a mammography machine in an area that was rural and did not have access to it. So their patients were having to drive an hour to go get a mammogram. So it's things like that. I think that sometimes gets lost in the conversation of here's some actual real world impacts of what it looks like to be able to not only do high value care, but to reinvest back into your community even more because of the work that you've been doing.
It sounds good. So, and this is my fault. So the APM bonuses are ended. Where are we on that?
So we're in 2025 performance year. The 2027 payment year will not receive a payment currently. We actually worked on a solution last Christmas. Elon Musk ruined it. Wow. And, it wasn't just that. It was everything in the bill. But there was a 3.55% APM bonus in that bill, costing about $1 billion, $1.2 or $3 billion. So currently, if you're in the APM program, the only thing you get is, if no law changes, you get a 0.75% update to your conversion factor. If you're in MIPS, you get 0.25%, which brings me to another point that if the reconciliation bill that is currently being debated by Congress passes, there is a Medicare quote-unquote fix, which deals with tying the conversion factor to MEI, Medicare Economic Index. If they do that, the idea of APMs and MIPS will be one and the same. So there won't be any APM incentive financially other than being in the program. So we are trying to we're educating members of Congress to know that like there needs to be a financial incentive because this cultural change. We've had members who've come in and said like I've been in the APM program for 7 years and I'm about to invest $30 billion in behavioral health program, $30 million, and not billion. That'd be a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot of behavioral. But so I think policymakers are understanding that, but we're just trying to work with Congress because they really don't want to spend money, but. We'll talk about later is this program, APMs actually save money.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, how do APMs save money?
They save a lot of money. I've got some numbers.
BOGO.
BOGO. I don't know. But last October, CMS announced that in the 2023 program year, MSSP yielded a program record of more than $5.2 billion with a B in net savings. And ACOs were the hot girl of the MSSP program, and they garnered a total of $3.1 billion in earned shared savings, which is another program record.
Daryl, can you make sense of those numbers?
Sure. No. So I think to what Lisa is referring to is these programs are working if we'll let them work, right? This is a way for Medicare to save money, for our providers to learn how to deliver care under a value-based or high-value based model, and all your incentives are aligned. To provide the right care for the right patient, the right time, and everything you want to see in a modern care delivery system. Now, unfortunately, what Jamie's talking about is that 5% bonus is vital for these programs to function, and a part of it is it takes a lot of time and effort and resources to stand up a value-based model, whether it's MSSP or one of the other models coming out of the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation. But you can't look at these in isolation, this 5% bonus. And to Jamie's point, when you've got so many cuts going through on the fee-for-service side, it makes it that much harder to invest in the resources and the staffing and the culture change needed to succeed in this value-based model. So you take that sort of 30,000-foot level view of these, and then you take a look at all the changes that CMS makes in these programs, and it makes it very hard for our members to sort of predict and plan for what their benchmarks are going to be, what the expectation is for quality measurement, and all the other rules that go along with these value-based models. It makes it harder for them to prepare and invest and succeed in these things. So while things are going very well, like Lisa mentioned, you have $5 billion in savings. That's fantastic. It's what lessons do we take from that? And it's not can we squeeze more out of this? It's how do we put AMG members in a position to succeed going forward.
I would add that I think our members come in this in good faith with the government because, as Daryl mentioned with risk, they're taking downside risk. So if they go way above their benchmark, they owe the government money. So this is a partnership. So I think the government and the providers working together, they're all taking risk. And if they do succeed, they should be rewarded.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that CMS, they see downside risk, and this is their, we talked about in a previous episode, the new strategic direction for CMS. They're not big fans of one-sided risk, right? Or those upfront, giving providers a time to transition into value-based care. They're saying, you've had time to learn how to do this. Now it's time to pull the training wheels off, and you're going to be in two-sided or downside risk because we're tired of a shared savings only model.
Okay, and that's the current CMMI thinking.
Right.
Okay, and so AMJ is pushing for an extension of the APM bonus. That's what we're doing?
Yes.
That was very succinct. Why? Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, it's something we keep fighting for. Actually, we signed a coalition letter of 40 trade associations, about 400 ACOs, to House and Senate leadership saying that this needs to be passed. There's pending legislation in the House and Senate that are bipartisan that we are pushing for as well. So yes, it is top of mind for all of us. And when we have a fly-in, and we will be talking about it as well.
All right, fantastic. CMS side, Daryl?
Yeah, so we are pushing for stability and predictability in these programs. I could take an example like quality measurement. They're transitioning to electronic quality measure reporting instead of like the web-based interface, and the system was working well, but now, AMGA members are going to have to update and transition to this new model, this new reporting system. And there's a whole lot of expense that goes along with that. So it's going to, take funding away from, direct patient care and other things you might want to do in a value-based model to, changing how we're reporting quality measures, which we should be reporting fewer quality measures anyway. And then there's this consistent push and pull on what should the benchmarks be set at and how much national versus regional blending in these things. So it gets very technical very quick, which from a programmatic standpoint, I understand where CMS is coming from. They want to make sure these benchmarks are set appropriately, but it makes it really difficult for a provider group or an ACO to figure out what's our target, how do we meet it, like what is the rules of the road, and what are those rules going to be 5 years from now so we can plan accordingly. So we're really emphasizing with CMS, like if you are going to have these models, if you're going to have them be voluntary and have members, provider groups want to participate, you've got to have stability in these programs. Otherwise, it's like I've had a member say it's like building a rocket ship to the moon, but you get the rules and the instructions, after launch or after you take off. So it's almost an impossible task.
All right. And so we continue on the legislative and regulatory fronts on incentivizing the APM program sort of generally.
Yeah. Shout out to our friends of the pod. This is the first time we've introduced that term here.
Friends of the pod?
Friends of the pod, because we have Representative LaHood and Dunn and Delbene and Schreier who represent a lot of AMGA members who've been really working on not only working on legislation to preserve the advanced APM program, but also our value champions as well. And so it's nice to see their work continue to be reflected legislatively. And then, hopefully we'll be able to give them the boost they need once reconciliation's fog lifts, so that we can kind of focus on what are going to be some end of the year goals.
Great.
Yeah, and Senator Barrasso from Wyoming as well. So yeah, there's been a lot of work. So good point.
I was going to ask for final comments, but I think we need to end on Friends of the Pod.
Yeah.
I love that term, between BOGO and Friends of the Pod.
Yeah.
We'll use that all day long. All right. Oh no. Any final thoughts, comments, FOPs?
I think we covered it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Thank you for an outstanding podcast. And to everyone out there in Friends of the Podland, thank you and have a good day.
Thanks for joining us for Filibusters in Fine Print. This podcast was brought to you by AMGA. For more information about AMGA's advocacy efforts, visit amga.org/advocacy.